So Bonnie feel like crying after this.
Really emotional. It's really emotional. The history is so heartbreaking.
Ready?
Okay guys, so this is how we get on a bus in Australia.
Bus driver didn't even stop when you did. I think that's the busman.
What? Oh wait, this one there, it's okay. So we get, what?
I thought that maybe he's not like he's got a no stop here, but he does.
No, yeah, he does. Okay, so get your card out.
Yeah, let's go.
Hey, how's it going?
That means it's recording now.
Oh yeah. So this is what a typical bus looks like.
Welcome to the new town.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's...
Jokes aside, like it's pretty good otherwise. There was just one-time incident. I travel through it almost every day and it's pretty nice. It's clean, easy to get in and out.
Just except if it's like 4 p.m, the bus is like packed like sardines.
Yeah. But you obviously haven't seen the Indian buses then, because they are something else. You done? So first we decided that let's just get some coffee and then we will go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just in the CBD. This is Hyde Park. It's a beautiful park. It's a big church. Lots of people. There's a water fountain. Tree. Pree's really shy. I want to make a vlog.
Clown. Let's go here.
So I'm just gonna stop and get a coffee because I'm an addict. Sort of cafe in Hyde Park. You see the Sydney Eye Tower. I've actually not been here before. It's super nice. Thanks for ordering my coffy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I want to make a vlog.
Can you stop mocking me now?
I just thought this is better. How beautiful. It's actually a nice day, but it's really cold.
Anyway, so where were we?
Well, as I was saying, there's a lot of tourists around right now because this is a really popular tourist destination. It's Hyde Park. It's a huge park in the CBD. It's right next to the big mall as well. It's all in close proximity. There's a huge church just up there and a water fountain, some really old architecture and buildings and plaques and things.
Yeah. And I feel like I lived in Perth for like 9 years, and after moving to Sydney I realized that Sydney is way more multicultural than Perth.
Yeah,
not a lot of people.
That's what we were talking about yesterday, like
yeah. I think whenever people think about Australia, they think about Sydney and Melbourne. Perth isn't something that comes to their head like that.
Fun fact, Perth is the most isolated city in the whole world.
And Perth is the longest city in the world as well. Which you didn't agree with me before. I had to pull up a proof and show it to her that that's the truth. Yeah. And then she did. And that's why the arguments are fun, because I mostly win.
This city feels like New York. Like there's always people moving through. Like we've been sitting here for maybe 10 minutes and hundreds of people have already walked past us, just this cafe alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true, right?
Yeah. And have you noticed that it's not just one type of people? There is all different sort of people have walked past us.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of Indian people. Like some people sounded like they're Spanish, English, all different nationalities.
Yeah.
And it's so nice.
So the CBD, so we're in like the touristy shopping district part right now. If you just walk up the road a bit, you enter the business district part. I guess, isn't that what CBD stands for? I don't know.
Yeah, Central Business District.
Yeah, well, you enter so you can immediately tell that you've entered the business zone of the city. There's about 100 people walking around in fancy suits. There's a Chanel and a Rolex shop, and you can tell.
Yeah. A huge, massive buildings, but also like a lot of the old architecture around here as well. You know,
Yeah, they've integrated all the modern with the archaic.
Yeah.
When I first came to Sydney and I went to the CBD, I was like, damn, there's so many people around in suits right now. I feel like I'm in like a
TV show.
Yeah. The little camera.
Hey, man. How much do I have to spend for you to get in there and take showers? $10 and get in there. Make it 15. $15. How much do you have to spend for you to get in there and take Okay, I'm recording it now.
Look up. The canopy, the trees are so thick and widespread. It's blocking the sun. That's why I was feeling so cold in here, because the sunlight can't reach.
What's the temperature today? No, it definitely feels cold now. ਹੁਣ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜੋ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ ਲਿਆਂਦੇ ਕੈਦੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੱਖਣ ਲਈ ਬਣਾਈ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਸਿਡਨੀ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਦੇ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਵਿੱਚ। ਤੇ ਇਸ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਹਾਈਡ ਪਾਰਕ ਬੈਰਕਸ। ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਕੰਡੀਸ਼ਨਸ ਕੈਦੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਆਜੋ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ। ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ 18ਵੀਂ ਸਦੀ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ। ਉਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ 'ਚ ਛੋਟੇ ਤੋਂ ਛੋਟੇ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਜੇਲ੍ਹ 'ਚ ਪਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਫਾਂਸੀ ਦੀ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਸੀ। ਤੇ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਜੇਲ੍ਹਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਫੁੱਲ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੈਦੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੱਖਣ ਲਈ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਚੀ। ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਕਿੰਗ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਬੁਲਾਈ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਡਿਸਾਈਡ ਕਰਿਆ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਨੂੰ ਐਕਸਪੈਂਡ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਆ। ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਇੱਕ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਕੈਪਟਨ ਜੇਮਸ ਕੁੱਕ ਨੂੰ, ਜਿਹਦਾ ਸਾਰਾ ਖਰਚਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਘਲਾਇਆ ਵੀ ਤੇਰਾ ਕੰਮ ਇਹ ਆ ਵੀ ਤੂੰ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਐਕਸਪਲੋਰ ਕਰ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਲੱਭ ਕੇ ਦੱਸ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਘੱਟ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ ਰੈਜ਼ਿਸਟੈਂਸ 'ਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਬਜ਼ਾ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ। ਤੇ ਜੇਮਸ ਕੁੱਕ ਲੱਭਦਾ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਿਆ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਦੇ ਪੂਰਬੀ ਇਲਾਕੇ 'ਚ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੁਣ ਸਿਡਨੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਲਬਨ ਆ। ਤੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਸਿਡਨੀ ਦੇ ਆਸੇ-ਪਾਸੇ ਦੇ ਏਰੀਏ 'ਚ ਪੀਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਤੇ ਖੇਤੀਬਾੜੀ ਵਾਲੀ ਜ਼ਮੀਨ ਦੀ ਸਰਚ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਪ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਉਸਨੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਤੀ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਕਿੰਗ ਨੂੰ। ਕਿੰਗ ਨੇ ਆਪਦੀ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਫਲੀਟ 11 ਸਮੁੰਦਰੀ ਜਹਾਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਰੀ ਸੈਂਡ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਵੱਲ ਨੂੰ, ਜਿਹੜੀ 24,000 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਰਸਤਾ ਤੈਅ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੇ 1450 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਈ ਇੰਡੀਅਨ ਵੀ ਸੀ, ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਈ ਪੋਰਟ ਜੈਕਸਨ 26 ਜਨਵਰੀ ਸਨ 1788 'ਚ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਦੇ ਕਬਜ਼ੇ ਦਾ ਆਗਾਜ਼ ਕਰਿਆ।
We are now going to take you with us through the Hyde Park Barracks. Following from Pree's detail of the colonial journey, British Sydney's expanding colony required separate housing for the import of convicts, where they would be expected to stay, live and work for their rehabilitation. The Hyde Park Barracks went into operation the 4th of June 1819. This building was designed to house some of New South Wales' continuously growing convict population and could be directly overseen by government officials. It is suspected that up to 1,200 convicts were living here at any time. The Hyde Park Barracks, as they are today, have been reconstructed and decorated as a walk-through audio tour and museum, guiding the person through each room and floor in the building. The audio is automated to play particular points of information depending on what room and area you're standing in. The technology was really incredible. The entrance to the museum is set to describe the sea voyage of the convicts, with projected displays of oceans and boats. In our headphones, we hear about the story of 16-year-old boy Charles Allen. So, let's listen. A boy was 14 years old in England. He stole a letter and he was sentenced to death. But at the last moment, they said, okay, instead of being hung, we're going to ship you off to New South Wales as a convict.
Wow.
He stole a letter.
So what she's basically saying is that in order to get Australian visa at the time, all you had to do was steal something.
Look, the journey to Australia was long and hard, filled with disease, death and sickness. The next room we enter is a huge virtual projection of what Sydney Cove and to the Gadigal clan Warrain is thought to have been like at the time of colonial settlement. Convicts are seen working to build the British settlement.
Very intuitive, actually. All the images are actually moving, and they're telling a story that we will obviously do it through a voiceover.
So this is ancient, this is 1800s, 1700s Sydney. The museum has structured its information and timeline into 3 floors and 3 layers: control, fear and hope. We began on floor 3, called Control. This floor was about how Governor Macquarie began securing his grip on not only the convict settlements to extort as much work from them as possible, but the Aboriginal people of the land they were robbing and plundering. Exploring the rooms of this floor, we see miniature dioramas, hearing stories through our headphones alongside. In this one diorama, we hear of a convict road party who are building a road between Sydney and a new lighthouse. To build this road, they are actually using ancient Aboriginal foot tracks as a guide, covering and erasing its long-standing history. In this second diorama, we see convicts clearing Aboriginal bushland to build St. James Church, lands which they have lived on and used for centuries, filled with their song and stories, cultural practices, hunting and use of the land for food and shelter and ceremonial gatherings. These trees being destroyed are believed by the Darug people to be living beings, no more or less important than humans, and is against Darug law and tradition to cut them down. Macquarie was enforcing his convict groups to continue expanding the British colony further and further, so much so that local Aboriginal food sources were becoming scarce and sacred sites being destroyed. This next diorama is particularly heartbreaking and heavy. In 1824, Antonio Rodrigo is a former convict growing potatoes. His field occupies a traditional yam ground known as Place of Plenty. He one day gives some potatoes to a group of Wiradjuri people passing by. The Wiradjuri worldview is that no one can own anything. All resources belong to everybody. So they return the next day thinking they could take more potatoes. To Rodrigo and his beliefs, this is theft. A huge massacre takes place. Innocent Aboriginal women and children are slaughtered. In August 1824, Governor Brisbane declares martial law and a brutal phase of killings, massacres and violence ensues towards the Indigenous peoples. There is simply not enough time in the world, I think, to cover this horrifying and deeply saddening topic and chapter of colonial Australia. But this museum does justice to telling the true, unbiased history of this country, which we all must know and understand. Here we see the bunk room of the convicts. Dozens of hammocks where convict men would sleep at night. It is said the floor would be filled with sleeping men too, crammed, dirty, disease-ridden. Rats would come in the middle of the night to bite and infect sleeping men. Disease was rampant, conditions were bleak, fear was instilled. This room was very particularly eerie for me and Pre walking through. It was really creaky and quiet. It just felt a little bit haunting walking through there. We now move on to the next floor, titled Fear. As the Australian social and cultural landscape was vastly changing with time, so was the efforts to instill fear into both ex-convicts, lawbreakers, and Australia's Indigenous peoples, whom the government was trying very hard to control and dampen. Here, we saw a lot of different artifacts, including tools used by people of the time, and even torture devices used against people who would step out of line. For the Aboriginal population, this time period was bloody and horrific. In 1837, convicts and settlers embarked on a bloody rampage, killing any Aboriginal people they could find. Children were being stolen from their parents and families and forced into institutions designed to strip and remove them of their language and culture in replacement of white European ideals. The instituted systems of the British had a devastating impact on the Aboriginal people, a loss of life, family and culture that still resonates through to this very day. This was the fear that Governor Macquarie and the British colony created, lasting many lifetimes. The last and final part of the tour was the bottom floor, entitled Hope. In 1848, when convicts were no longer required, the Hyde Park Barracks became an immigration depot for lone women arriving in Australia. It became a refuge for poor, destitute, and elderly women who had nowhere else to go. A lot of women arriving were sufferers of the Irish famine. Many orphans and victims stayed here during this time. On display are a lot of artifacts and family stories from this time, which Pri and I really enjoyed listening to. For the next 40 years, it would serve as a home for newly arriving women in Australia. The building also served time as an asylum, with some female inmates having terminal diseases, chronic diseases, or physical impairments. As we were exiting the museum, we saw a wall filled with notes and messages left by visitors, so we had to leave one ourselves. In Punjabi, Pri wrote, "Heartfelt experiences," and underneath I wrote a note in English, which you can take a look at. This museum was a really unexpected part of our journey today,
and was filled with a lot of empathetic learning and knowledge. This museum is a great resource for international travellers and migrants who might not know about the dark history of Australia. The thing about history is that it can sometimes be really one-sided and facts can be omitted and lost. As Australians and as humans, we need to know the real history no matter how hard it is to listen to and understand. Especially considering our journey of reconciliation to Australia's Aboriginal population. This is why it's really important to understand the history from Aboriginal perspectives. Please check out our video description where we've attached some links where you can hear and read about more information from Aboriginal speakers.
So, what do you think about...
I'm like crying. It's really emotional. Like the history is heartbreaking, very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But you have to know it. You have to know it. Because we won't learn from it otherwise.
For me as well, maybe. So we were just gonna go past it, and then we saw Hyde Park Barracks, and we'd never been here before, so we just went in there. Everything that we heard, we never heard or saw before. It was so detailed, and I think that everybody should know it. It's free, it's very informative. Spend your time, take a look around, listen to the narrator, and they've done a really good job with it. And apart from that, you get to learn a lot about how Australia started. And in this vlog, our idea is that we will tell you a little bit, like a little part of it. And then as we're moving further, we will tell you more about the atrocities that took place in Australia in those times. Right. This place does the justice. They have mentioned everything like in a very concise and proper way, the way it's happened. They're very, very like intense stories in here. And I think we will definitely go into it in more detail as we move along.
Yeah.
So do definitely visit. It's free, very accessible. It's very interactive. Every time you step into something, a story starts to basically...
and it's in the real building, so you feel the aura around you, like the history is around you while you're listening and learning about it. It's like, no wonder I'm crying. It was very full on.
So we're going to continue to the Sydney Mint, which was our original plan. Hopefully it won't be okay by then, because I think Mint has a bit more funnier side of it, I guess. More lighter side of it.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's go.
ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਸਟਾਰਟਿੰਗ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਾਲਾਂ 'ਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਬਜ਼ਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਤੇ ਚਾਲੂ ਕਰਿਆ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਛੇਤੀ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਗਿਆ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ 24,000 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਦੂਰ, ਆਉਣਾ ਜਾਣਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਸਮੁੰਦਰੀ ਰਾਹ ਥਾਣੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਇਨਫ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਆ ਪਾਉਣ ਲਈ, ਨਾ ਖਾਣ ਲਈ ਇਨਫ ਸਮਾਨ ਆ, ਨਾ ਦਵਾਈਆਂ ਆ ਤੇ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਇਨਫ ਬੰਦੇ ਆ ਕੰਮਕਾਰ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ। ਤੇ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਇਹ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆ ਸਕਦੇ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਲਿਆਈ ਗਏ ਆ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਹੈਲਪ ਮੰਗੀ ਬਾਅਦ 'ਚ, ਤੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਨੇ ਐਜ਼ ਏ ਹੈਲਪ ਦੇ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਾਈਸ, ਕੱਪੜੇ, ਦਵਾਈਆਂ ਤੇ ਈਵਨ ਇੰਡੀਅਨ ਕਰੰਸੀ ਵੀ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਦੇ ਕਈ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਤੇ ਯੂਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਆ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਖਰੀਦਣ ਵੇਚਣ ਲਈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਕੋਲੇ ਆਪਦੀ ਕਰੰਸੀ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮਿੰਟ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਉਸ ਸਮੇਂ, ਤੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਰੰਸੀ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਖਰੀਦਦੇ ਵੇਚਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਆਪਸ 'ਚ। ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮਿੰਟ ਆਪਦੀ ਬਣਾ ਲਈ ਸਿਡਨੀ 'ਚ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਆਪਦੀ ਕਰੰਸੀ ਇਹ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਲੱਗ ਗਏ, ਤੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਰੰਸੀਆਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਵਰਤੀਆਂ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਰਿਪਲੇਸ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਦੀ ਕਰੰਸੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ।
ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖੀਏ ਤੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਤਾਜ ਮਹਿਲ ਨੂੰ ਬਣਾਉਣ 'ਚ 20 ਸਾਲ ਲੱਗ ਗਏ, ਕਿੰਨੀ ਜਨਤਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਤੇ ਲੱਗੀ ਉਹਨੂੰ, ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਅਦ 'ਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਥ ਵੱਢਤੇ। ਕਿੰਨੀ ਇੰਟਰਸਟਿੰਗ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਸਿਡਨੀ ਦੀ ਮਿੰਟ ਆ, ਇਹਦੀ ਬੜੀ ਇੰਟਰਸਟਿੰਗ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਆ। ਉਹ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਉਹ 1,70,000 ਲੀਟਰ ਰਮ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਐਜ਼ ਏ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ, 45,000 ਗੈਲਨ ਔਰ 1,70,000 ਲੀਟਰ ਰਮ ਦੇ ਕੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਐਜ਼ ਏ ਪੇਮੈਂਟ ਇਹ ਬਣਾਈ ਸੀ ਮਿੰਟ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਸੀਗਾ ਤੇ ਬਾਅਦ 'ਚ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਕਰੰਸੀ ਬੇਸਿਕਲੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਗਏ। ਉਹ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਹੋਰ
Okay.
This is the oldest building of the convicts era, right? ਇਹ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਕੂਪੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਬਜ਼ਾ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਇਆ ਉਦੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬਣਾਈ ਗਈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਬੜੀਆਂ ਇਨੀਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੈ। ਸਿਡਨੀ ਮਿੰਟ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਦੇ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਬੜੀ ਅਹਿਮ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਆ। ਇਸ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਰੱਬ ਹੀ ਜਾਣਦਾ, ਬਟ ਇਸ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਸਾਂਭ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਬੜੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਓਰੀਜਨਲ ਪੱਥਰ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਬਣਾਈ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਉਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਰਿਸਟੋਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਸ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਨਟੇਨ ਕਰਿਆ ਗਿਆ। ਅੱਜ ਸਿਡਨੀ ਮਿੰਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਇਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੇ, ਇਹਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਤੇ ਇਸ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਨੂੰ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਤੇ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੇਪਰ ਨੋਟ ਆ ਉਹ ਮੈਲਬਨ ਦੇ ਕ੍ਰੇਗੀਬਰਨ 'ਚ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਸਿੱਕੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਰਾਇਲ ਮਿੰਟ ਕੈਨਬਰਾ 'ਚ ਬਣਾਏ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ। ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਬੜਾ ਡਾਰਕ ਟਾਈਮ ਸੀਗਾ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਅਨ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਦਾ। ਹੁਣ ਚਾਹੇ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਿਆ ਇਹ ਮੁਲਕ ਤੇ ਕਈ ਹੋਰ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਮੁਲਕ, ਬਟ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਜਿਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਫਰਜ਼ ਬਣਦਾ ਵੀ ਕਮ ਸੇ ਕਮ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਾਣੀਏ ਤੇ ਸਹੀ, ਜੇ ਸਮਝਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ। ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਤੇ ਬਣਾਈਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਲੋਕ ਪਸੰਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ, ਪਰ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਦੇਖੀ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਹੋਪਫੁਲੀ ਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਵੈਲਿਊ ਇਸ ਵੀਡੀਓ 'ਚ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਮਿਲੀ ਹੋਊਗੀ, ਤੇ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਭੁੱਲ ਚੁੱਕ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਮਾਫੀ। ਤੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਲੌਗ ਆ ਉਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ ਹੁੰਦਾ। ਹੋਪਫੁਲੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਜੋਏ ਕਰਿਆ ਹੋਊਗਾ। ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ 'ਚ ਰਹੋ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ, ਤੇ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਵਲੌਗ 'ਚ। ਤਦ ਤੱਕ ਲਈ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।